So let's go to the interesting stuff here, okay? So this is nice. Okay, let's look at the new cards one by one. So we already looked at Blood on the Snow, which wasn't even in the release stream. So let's take a look at Nico Aris. Okay, this is one of the Planeswalkers you can have in the pre-orders. It costs X, white, blue, blue for 3 loyalty Planeswalkers. So you can, if you wish, you can pay X equals 0, so then this is a 3 mana, 3 loyalty Planeswalker, okay? When Nico Aris enters the battlefield, create X shard tokens. Actually, can you guys see this? No, I should zoom in. Okay, I think now you guys can see it properly. When Nico Aris enters the battlefield, create X shard tokens. They're enchantments with pay 2, sacrifice an enchantment, scry 1 and draw a card. Okay, so scry 1, then draw a card. Okay. So they're like better clues, I think, right? Clues were those tokens you get from Investigate, which were artifacts. These are enchantments. These are enchantments, so this could synergize with enchantment synergy, right? With Constellation of Fears Beyond Death, but probably is not going to be relevant. Pay 2, scry 1, draw a card. So for a control deck, later in the game, you can really just, you know, pay as much as you like. Let's say you pay 6 mana, right? For 6 mana, you get a Planeswalker plus 3 of those shard tokens, and then later on, you can pay 2, draw a card. So for a control deck, that's pretty great because it's also very flexible. You don't have to pay anything if you don't want to. You can leave X as 0, and then just have the Planeswalker. Okay, so let's take a look at the Planeswalker abilities. +1. Up to 1 target creature you control can be blocked this turn. Whenever that creature deals damage this turn, return it to its owner's hand. Okay, so this card aims at the dual model cards, right? Because if you return the creature to your hand, you can choose between the dual model cards again. And we're getting new ones with this expansion, plus we have those from Zendikar Rising. Is there anything that comes to my mind immediately? Yorion comes to my mind. It's not dual model, but returning to your hand is beneficial because of the Enter the Battlefield effect. And really any card that has a nice Enter the Battlefield effect, and which you play only for the Enter the Battlefield effect, this gives you the option to return Savvy to your hand, right? And since it can be blocked, you're pretty safe to get it back. But this is very circumstantial, so I think that +1 ability really requires some, you know, proper deck building. -1, the first -1, Nico Aris deals 2 damage to target tap creature for each card you've drawn this turn. So this -1 here synergizes with the shard tokens, right? Because shard tokens lets you draw cards, so you naturally draw 1 card every turn, and then if you know, let's say you draw 2 more cards, and this already is 6 damage, but the creature needs to be tapped, which is a big requirement actually. So the fact that the creature needs to be tapped is, yeah, makes things complicated, to say the least. And then -1, create a shard token. So this is like a value Planeswalker, right? You can pump mana into it to get more value if you want to, and then it gets you more value while it's on the board by creating those shard tokens, or returning creatures back to your hand so you can use the value again. So this Planeswalker is all about value, and I think the only not so great thing about this Planeswalker is the first -1, because the creature needs to be tapped. But then again, you know, if you're in a control deck and you play this, if you're controlling the game properly, you can end up in situations where your opponent has only one creature left on the battlefield, maybe not even a lot of cards in hand anymore. So maybe your opponent attacks you, and then you play this as a removal, which is still nice, right? Because if you can calculate in your head how many cards do I need to roll, blah blah. And then sometimes 2 or 4 damage are enough to kill a creature, and then you can just pump all the mana into this Planeswalker and get some card draw going, right? So this Planeswalker is all about value. Very interesting stuff. Really, I'm really curious about how this is going to work in the meta. Okay, let's zoom out a bit again. Next up, we got a god here, so let's close this down. Oh, they ended up here with 2 cards actually. So okay, let's first. Oh no, this is a dual modal card too. Oh, I didn't understand that in the stream. Okay. No, that makes it even more interesting. So let's zoom in properly. Okay, first half, Valky, God of Lies, 2 mana, 2/1. Legendary creature god. When Valky enters the battlefield, each opponent reveals their hand. For each opponent, exile a creature card they revealed this way until Valky leaves the battlefield. Okay, and then you can pay X, choose a creature card, exile with Valky with convert mana cost X. Valky becomes a copy of that card. Huh. So the enter the battlefield effect reminds me of. Let me get the name right. Is it Kite Sail? Wait, Kite Sail Freebooter. Yeah. I think the effect is very similar, or rather the whole card. Can you guys see this? Probably no. Let's zoom in. So Kite Sail Freebooter, this is also in standard right now. It's also 2-drop 1/2 flying, and when else the battlefield target one reveals his or her hand, choose a non-creature, non-land card for him. Exile the card until Kite Sail Freebooter leaves the battlefield. So I would say these cards are pretty similar in that they are both 2-drops, and you exile a card from your opponent's hand. This wants you to exile a creature card, and the Freebooter wants you to exile non-creature, non-land card, right? So they're very similar in that regard. And this one has the added benefit of you can become a copy of the creature. So what I'm thinking about right now, just think about the meta. Think about exiling a Croxa. You exile this, next turn you pay 2. This becomes a 6/6 Croxa, and you can swing in. That seems pretty good, but obviously that's very specific. However, since it's a dual model card, I can see this in like a hand disruption discard deck, which I just built one today. Incidentally, I just built one today. And it would fit in there pretty well, because you have this front side, which you can, which has this immediate exile effect, and then you can have later bigger upside later. Or if you don't play it, it becomes Tibalt. Now let's take a look at Tibalt. It's a 7 mana Planeswalker. 7 mana. The only other Planeswalker that comes near this cost right now is Eugene, right, which costs 8 mana. And Garruk Cursed Huntsman costs 6 mana. But that's pretty much it right now, right? So 7 mana, a lot of mana for a Planeswalker with 5 loyalty. As Tibalt enters the battlefield, you get an emblem with you may play cards exile with Tibalt Cosmic Imposter, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast those spells. And then +2, exile the top card of each player's library. Okay, now this is big. So the +2 basically says for you, draw a card. Because we have this emblem. The emblem doesn't say that you need to control Tibalt Planeswalker in order to play those cards. Just +2 for you, actually draw 2 cards, right? Because you also exile the top card of your opponent's library. So right away you gain 2 loyalty, which is a lot, and you draw 2 cards. That's a huge value engine. To be fair, the turn you play this, you're not going to play anything else. It's 7 mana, it's a lot. -3, exile target artifact or creature. That's really good. Exiling a creature gives you immediate control on the board. Artifact is relevant. We have Emercles, we have Great Henges, so that's really good. And at -8, the ultimate, exile all cards from all graveyards, add red. And all the cards you exile, you may play later. So if you exile your opponent's graveyard, and let's say there are 15 cards in there, and in your graveyard there are 10 cards, you basically draw 25 cards, which you don't have to discard because they're in exile. Wow, this is crazy. Wow, I mean, this is so cool. I love this. I mean, just, you know, if you play like a hand disruption deck, put 4 of these into your deck as 2-drops to, you know, disrupt your the early plays of your opponent. As I said, this could become like a Rakdos, what am I saying, Croxa or anything. Or really just, if you look at a meta, like, imagine you play this on turn 2, you exile your opponent's Lovestruck Beast. Turn 3, you play 3 mana, you got a 5/5. Right? However, I wonder if... So here it says Valky becomes a copy of that card. And it doesn't say except it has this ability. So if I'm understanding this card correctly, it would mean that you exile a creature card from your opponent's hand, and then let's say it's the Lovestruck Beast, right? We pay 3 mana, it becomes a copy of Lovestruck Beast, and I think the Lovestruck Beast should still be exiled under Valky. However, when it dies now, it's a copy of Lovestruck Beast, and Lovestruck Beast doesn't have the text until Valky leaves the battlefield. So your opponent wouldn't get the card back, which is actually huge. That makes a huge difference to, let's say, Kitesail Freeboot, right? So yeah, I'm super excited by this card. This seems really, really good. I mean, you have the Tibalt upside later, this crazy Planeswalker with this amazing art. And the front also seems nice, so okay, this is some good shit right here. But let's move on, there's so much more we need to talk about. Okay, this one I think was pretty insignificant. Let's go closer. It's Ingaruna. I actually can move my camera again. Ingaruna is 4 mana 3/3 legendary creature human wizard. When it enters the battlefield, scry 3. And when it dies, draw 3 cards if 3 or more creatures die this turn. So this seems like a fine card for draft. For standard construct, it's obviously not playable. The dice effect is never going to happen in standard, at least in constructed. So die effect is really insignificant. Scry 3 is some nice value in draft, but for standard constructed, it's irrelevant. Next up we got Call the Forge Master. 2 mana and Boris Calls, legendary creature, Dwarf Warrior. It's a 2/2. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, if it was enchanted or equipped, return it to its owner's hand. Okay, so basically some value engine, and we already seen some equipment support in Zendikar Rising. And creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. What? Creature tokens you control that are enchanted or equipped get +1/+1. How often does it happen that you enchant or equip a token? Like, the one thing that comes to mind right now is the Nahiri Planeswalker we have in standard, which, you know, lets you create a core warrior creature token, and upon creation, it lets you equip one of your equipments for free onto the token. And then the benefit you get is the token has +1/+1. The Anthem effect seems super bad, super relevant, and it sounds like something that's never going to happen. Honestly, I can't even imagine. We have yet to see like 80% of the rest of the expansion. But like, even if there are token generators, like, okay, let's say you equip them, but is the fact that you sometimes equip token creatures, is that a big enough fact to run this card? And it's even a legendary creature. You can't even have multiple of them on the board to have multiple Anthem effects. So the Anthem effect is really irrelevant and bad right away. The other effect, when it dies, it was enchant or equip, return to its owner's hand. I think that's interesting if you want to enchant creatures, because always the problem with enchanted creatures is that if your opponent kills your creature with a removal spell, he gets a 2/1, right? Because he removed your creature and the enchantment. And this basically says you get your creature back, so your opponent just 1/1'd you. So that could be interesting in an enchantment/equipment deck, but I'm very hesitant to say that this is going to be great. I just don't see it right now. Okay, next up we got Oliphtrol. Now this one I was really curious about in the stream, but it just went away too fast. So Oliphtrol, 3 mana 4/4 in pure green, trample troll warrior. It's already a very good stat line. It's like is it Yorvo? Yorvo, Lord of Garenrik, right? Yeah, it's like that. It's also 3 mana 4/4 when it comes in, has the same mana cost. Okay. So 3 mana 4/4 with trample, I like it. When Oliphtrol dies, if it was a creature, return it to the battlefield. It's an aura enchantment with enchant forest you control, and enchanted forest has tap, add, double green, and pay 1, tap the forest, sacrifices land. Create a tapped 4/4 green troll warrior creature token with trample. Aha! Oh, what? What the hell? Okay, so just as a creature, 3 mana 4/4 trample is... it's good, right? It's just good. Very decent. I think this can find play in the current meta, right? We have these Gruul adventure decks. This is fine. This is good. And because it has trample, right? So it's going to be a big beater for sure. Also, the art is amazing. And then when it dies, it gives you this this ramp effect in a way. And later on, you can instant speed create a 4/4 warrior creature token. But you have to sacrifice the land. But this is probably not that relevant in a aggressive deck, right? So mana is not that much of your concern. It's going to be more about having enough resources. So I think this card is pretty great. The fact that it ramps you when it dies, like passively ramps you in a way, is yeah, it's very interesting. I don't know how else to put it. It's like I want to put it this way: if you play this, let's say in an aggressive Gruul deck, right? What you care about in aggressive decks is having resources to, continue pressuring your opponent and eventually kill him, right? You're not concerned about ramping or anything. So the upside of it dying is nice, but I don't think it's going to be a reason for playing this card. I think the main reason you're going to play this card is because it's a 3 mana 4 for Trample, which is good. And then later on, it can give you a 4/4 warrior at instant speed when you have run out of resource. So, and in between these two reasons, we have the ramp, right? So this ramp is just giving you more ways to be aggressive. So I think this is a great card. I think this looks like a good staple. That being said, I want to be cautious here because I could imagine a world where this card falls victim to the fact that it's a free drop that costs 3 green mana and it's competing with free drops like Lost-Struck Beast. And right now, what's really important about Lost-Struck Beast is it's a 3 mana 5/5, which lets you play the Great Henge on turn 4 because it reduces the cost of Great Henge so much. If you play this on turn 3, you're not going to be able to play Great Henge on turn 4. And while this is a great card, I think, as I said, this might fall victim to the fact that the current good green/ghoul decks we have right now probably wouldn't run this card, I think, because you have other more important options. Or on turn 3 you want to play your Kizune Mammoth because it also enables you to play the Great Henge on turn 4. So I think it's a great card, but it competes with other cards in the meta. Okay, next I'm Masked Vandal. Now this one I was excited about in the stream. This card seems so, let's say insuspicious, because it's also just a common, but hear me out. Masked Vandal is a 2 mana 1/3 with Changeling, so this card is every creature type, and I've actually read somewhere, the rules say, if a card has Changeling, it's every creature type everywhere. It's every creature type in the graveyard, in the library, on the battlefield, in your hand, okay? Just to get that out there. When Masked Vandal enters the battlefield, you may exile a creature card from your graveyard. If you do, exile target artifact or enchantment opponent controls. I love this card. This is an amazing sideboard card for a creature deck, or for a creature heavy deck. It's amazing. So for 2 mana, you get a good blocker, which can help you against other creature heavy decks, right? It's Changeling. It might be relevant, probably not, but if it is, it's nice. But you get to exile an artifact or enchantment, right? If you play your best of 3s and you see your opponent use a lot of artifacts and enchantments, put this card in there. I mean, it's a very low tempo 2-drop, but you get to exile it. It's not even destroy, it's exile. So I think this card is a great sideboard card. Watch out for this one. Next up we got Elvish Warmaster. 2 mana 2/2 Elf Warrior. Whenever one or more other elves enters? Isn't it enter? Whatever. Enters the battlefield under your control. Create a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token. This ability triggers only once each turn. And it says one or more other elves, so the other elves can also be tokens. And then you can pay 7 mana as a controller, get +2/+2 and Death Touch until end of turn. So the activated ability reminds me of, oh god, what's it called? It's called like Jolra El Monvoli Recluse. Man, I'm so good. The activated ability reminds me a bit of this card. Jorel, just move the camera. This pays 6 mana until end of turn, creatures control have base power and toughness XX, where X is the number of cards in your hand. So the requirement is very different, but it's the same idea in a way that this is supposed to be a finisher, right? So it's a 2 mana 2/2. It's just like a vanilla 2-drop, and else we already have seen cards in the set, elf cards in the new set that will allow you to make tokens, elf tokens. And I think elves are probably pretty good at creating elf tokens. So I think it's reasonable to assume that if you play an elf ball deck, you will have the ability to also create elf tokens on your opponent's turn, which means you will also be able to trigger this ability on your opponent's turn. So it's fine, right? So you get your 2 mana 2/2 with additional elves down the road, and then you have this big finisher. And elves, like elf tribal decks, might actually be able to consistently be able to pay 7 mana. We've seen the new elf for 4 mana. Let's actually look it up quickly so that you can see what I mean. Where is it? Yeah, we have this Canopy Tactician, right? This is one of the new elves. Pumps your elves and gives you a lot of mana. So if you play this on turn 4, on turn 5 you're going to be able to pay the 7 mana. And again Death Touch, so you can really just blow your opponent out there. Yeah, I think it's just a solid rhubarb. If you play an elf tribe, you obviously want it. Also, what's nice is you can have multiple of these on the board. It's not legendary, so you can have, you know, so you can have multiple triggers. So it's just a fine, solid, good card for elf tribal. Okay, so let's get back up here. Whoops, went too far. What's next? Oh yeah, we got this new god. New dual god, Aerons, God of the Cosmos. 5 mana, 1/1, so that's the front side of card, legendary creature god. Aerons gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand and each foretold card you own in exile. Okay, right away, this screams control. Control, control, control. You have a lot of cards. You can afford to invest mana in foretold to play those cards later. This screams control, control, and right away it synergizes well with what's the name of this new planeswalker? With Nico Aris, right? Because Nico Aris has to draw cards. And at the beginning of your end step, choose a card type, then reveal the top 2 cards of your library. Put all cards of the chosen type into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Oh, put all cards of the chosen type. So you could even draw 2 cards with this the turn you play it. It's pretty good. Okay, before I give you my opinion, let's read the other side. Hacker, Whispering Raven, 2 mana 2/3 legendary creature bird flying. Whenever it deals combat damage to your player, return it to its owner's hand and scry 2. Okay, so we got Aerons, God of the Cosmos. Okay, again, this screams control. My first thoughts here are this synergizes very, very well with Nico Aris, right? So Nico Aris here, yeah, you can see probably. Synergizes very well with this Planeswalker, because this Planeswalker lets you draw cards, right? So you draw cards with this, and then Aerons, God of the Cosmos, gets really, really big. And Aerons is a continual card draw engine. Now, what also comes to my mind, his secondary effect with drawing your cards synergizes really well with the Jace Planeswalker from Zendikar Rising, because the Jace Planeswalker lets you scry 2 every turn, right? So you can basically, you can just scry 2, and you know exactly what cards are on top of your library, and then at the beginning of your end step, you know exactly what card type you name, and then ideally you get 2 cards in hand, and Aerons gets really, really big. What's a bit, what's a bit of a shame is actually that the synergy with Nico Aris would be even nicer, in the way that Aerons can get really, really big, right? So in a control deck, let's say, it's safe to assume in a control deck you play this, you have like 5 cards in hand at least. This is a 6/6. And then it would be really nice if you could make it unblockable with Nico Aris. However, then you return it back to your hand and you have to pay the mana again. So That's actually not that great. But yeah, what do I think about this card? Actually, I think this card is not that great, but because of the following reason. You obviously want to play this in a control deck, right? And this card could be something like a big finisher for a deck. So you maybe have a lot of counter spells, and then you play this and protect it. But that requires you to have a lot of mana. And the effect that draws you cards is at the beginning of your end step. So if your opponent is, you know, not a dumbass, is a little bit smart, he's just going to kill your Elrond before your end step, and all you did that turn was pay 5 mana for a vanilla, like a creature with big stats that didn't do anything else for you. It didn't have an enter the battlefield effect or anything. So I think that's pretty bad. That's why, and then Haka Whispering Raven, the Scry 2 is nice, but in a best case scenario, I want to be fair, this is a dual model card, so dual model cards always have this upside benefit of being so flexible. So what this card could represent is maybe you play it as a 1 or 2 of if a control deck, and then early on you pay your 2-drop, and you don't even attack with the bird, right? You just use it maybe as a blocker, and then if you didn't need to do that in the early game because you got through the early game through other means, you play Elrond, and you know, you draw cards with it because your opponent obviously can't always remove your creatures. But while I think the design is really cool, in the end I think this is not going to be great. I don't think it's going to see a lot of play because of the problems that I described. Okay, so let's close this. Next up, oh yeah, we got Binding of the Old Gods. I'm really disappointed about this card because we saw this card on the stream and I read the first 2 lore encounters, was like, oh my god, this card seems really cool. And then you read the third one. So what does this do? You pay 4 mana in Golgari colors. First lore counter, destroy target non-land permanent and opponent controls. So that's really good. Like 4 mana, you destroy anything. 2, search library for a forest card. Put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. So it's a forest card. So for example, we've seen that there are going to be dual snowlands, and those dual snowlands actually have the land type, right? They're not like those dual lands which just give you 1 of 2 manas but don't actually have a land type. No, those dual snowlands are going to be forest, islands, and so on, right? So you could fetch a snow dual land with this, or you can fetch the Triome lands from Ikoria, right? Because they also have the forest tag, some of them. So that's really cool. So you can get actual really valuable lands beside basic lands. And then a third lore counter, creatures you control gain death touch until end of turn. This last lore counter is just so useless because it's so useless. I can't put it other way. So this would be real nice in like let's say a Sultai control deck. This is really nice value. 4 mana you can destroy anything, which I think is fine at sorcery speed, but you can destroy anything. Then you get a forest card onto the battlefield, right? So you draw a card and you immediately get it on the battlefield. It's really nice. And then the third lore counter is, it doesn't do you anything because you're a control deck. Maybe, I don't know, you have tokens or anything, but let's just say, I think in a realistic scenario, only the first 2 lore counters are of any relevance to you. But, to be fair, now that I think about it, I think this could see play in a Sultai control deck. I really think that because you have this immediate effect of destroying anything, and really anything except for lands, which is huge. You have this immediate effect, and then you get some ramp which you want to have in a control deck. So I think these two facts combined, that the destroy effect is immediate and then you get some additional value on top on the next turn, some ramp. I think this card might be playable in a Sultai control deck. So, although I'm really disappointed by the third lower counter, I think the first two lower counters alone might make this card worthwhile. And it really goes to show that the design team knew, okay, this is a lot of value already. So the third one we just put on something that's going to be pretty useless. Next up we got Frostbite. Okay, so this is a snow instant, as we got to learn it. And I have to ask you guys a question because I don't know about this. I assume snow instant means I can only play this with snow permanents, so I can't pay a normal mountain red, I assume. But since they are also basic lands, doesn't really matter, I guess. So Frostbite is 2 damage to target creature Planeswalker. By the way, awesome art. If you control 3 or more snow permanents, it deals 3 damage instead. I don't know. I don't know about this one. It seems very great in draft. Although I don't know if you... Can you get snow basics in draft? Probably. So it seems great in draft. In standard constructed... I don't know. I mean, if you're red... I mean, you play removal spells in red that deal 3 damage, like Scorching Dragonfire. So given that, this might actually be playable in that regard. I would say this is a solid card, but I'm skeptical because you can point it at face. But you also can point Scorching Dragonfire at face and it's played. So this is probably good. Probably. Next up we got Varagoth Blotsky Sire. 3 mana, 2/3. It's a rogue. It's a rogue, demon rogue. With Death Touch. Boast. 2 mana. Target player searches the library for a card and shuffles the library and puts that card on top of it. I don't think this is going to see play. Now, the tutor effect is really nice. And your opponent doesn't get to see the card. I think that's something important to note. But you need to play this as 3 mana 2/3. The Death Touch is good, so the Death Touch is there, so it's less likely to become blocked, right? Yeah. But then you have to invest 2 more mana into it. I don't know. For me, this card feels very clunky. Maybe there is this Death Touch tribal theme, right? Which there is some support for from M21. But this card feels too clunky to me. I don't like it. Next up we got Soros Packmate. As the battlefield, draw a card, foretell for 1 in the green. So you can pay to exile this and then on a later turn pay 2 mana to get a 3/3 and draw a card. I think this is solid for draft, for standard constructed, not playable. And then, ooh yes, now we get to good stuff. In the reveal stream they said there are going to be 5 mythic foretell cards, if I remember correctly. I think he said foretell cards, not foretell sorceries. I think just foretell cards, okay? So, Aerons Epiphany, 7 mana sorcery. Create 2/1/1 bluebird creature with flying. Take an extra turn after this one. Extra Aerons Epiphany, and you can foretell for 6 mana. So you pay an additional 2, and then as early as you have, when you have 6 mana, you can pay 6 to get 2 birdies and take an extra turn. Extra turns are back, baby. Now, I've waited for an extra turn card in standard for a long time now, because I really like them. I like to build around them. I mean, it's just 6 mana, take an extra turn. I think it could be great as a like 2-off in a control deck. You know, because you just make this front up down payment of 2 mana on a turn where you have nothing else to do with your mana, like on turn 2 maybe. And then just sits there, and you can just activate it at the right time to, you know, to finish out your opponent. What comes to my mind is you play this in an Azorius control deck. You have your Dream Trawlers as your win condition. The moment your Dream Trawler hits the battlefield, you protect the Dream Trawler with its built-in hexproof. And then the turn after, you play Aerons Epiphany. You got 2 turns in a row where you get to swing twice with Dream Trawler, and that should be enough to, you know, really solidify your win in the game. And you get 2 bird creature tokens, which is, you know, nice. So yeah, I think it could seek play there. And also because important, if you pay the 2 to put this into exile for the foretell effect, it can get discarded, right? So you always have this. And I'm gonna make a wild guess here, which I assume we're going to have some card like this. I assume there's going to be some card in the set which reduces the foretell cost of card. I just assume there's going to be such a thing because it seems very obvious to design such a card. And if there is going to be such cards, you get even to you know, reduce the foretell cost on the Epiphany, and who knows, maybe there's a card that says foretell cost you play costs 2 less to cast. Then this would be 4 mana for an extra turn. Seems good. I like it. I like to have extra turns in standard, which are not broken. Okay, let's actually reload, because I think... Is there going to be more? Yes. Oh, okay, so look at that. It seems like the Vorinclex actually got... What? Wait, is this actual language? Or is this like Phyrexian writing? I don't know. So okay, Vorinclex seems to have been gotten confirmed. Let's see what's the source. Oh, the source is from twitchtv.magic. So okay, Vorinclex is confirmed. We get the 6/6 trample hasted boy. Damn, that's exciting. That's really nice. You got a 6/6 trample haste. I put it in the Sultai control decks with Planeswalker and just run over people. Oh boy. Oh boy. But I already talked about this one. But that's pretty cool. Oh, that's a new one here. Behold the Multiverse. Oh yeah, baby. Behold the Multiverse. 4 mana instant, scry 2, then draw 2 cards, and foretell for 2 mana. At instant speed. I think I say no to this card. So you have to invest 2 mana. And then you have to play 2 mana again to scry 2, draw 2. I don't think this card justifies... The effect of this card doesn't justify the mana cost, I think. Because in the end you always pay the original cost, right? You always pay the 4 mana that's actually on the face of the card. And you just stretch it out over several turns, which is, you know, a big difference, I get it, but... At the end of the day, you still, for 4 mana, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. And I think you can do so much more for 2 mana, for 4 mana, than this. I also, you know, always disclaimer, I'm giving my opinion here based on the stuff we know about the set so far. And obviously, I think there is going to be cards that synergize with foretell, right? Like we already seen with the... What's it called? The Blue God, Elrond, right? This guy synergizes already with cards which are in foretell exile, and maybe there's some cards which have some triggered ability when you foretell or stuff. So always disclaimer, but still I think, even with the knowledge we have right now, I don't think this card is worth its cost. Okay, and then we have Augury Raven. 4 mana, 3/3, flying and foretell. Yeah. Standard constructed, not playable. Maybe this is playable in draft. I don't want to go too much into this. But just overall, I want to say that I really like the flavor. I like the art. I think everything seems so on point, and especially that, you know, we get a winter set in January. It's just so cool. And last card here is Glimpse the Cosmos. 2 mana sorcery. Look at the top 3 cards of your library. Launch them into your hand and rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Okay, so this is like an anticipate effect, right? But anticipate is a instant. Okay, so this is the anticipate effect at sorcery speed. As long as you control a giant, you may cast Glimpse the Cosmos from your graveyard by paying blue rather than paying its mana cost. If you cast Glimpse the Cosmos as well, it would put in your graveyard exiled instead. Huh. So, blue giant tribal. Okay, so what we've seen so far, I make the assumption that giants, blue giants are probably giant wizards. So there's some kind, maybe there's some kind of instant sorcery synergy, and I mean this card would indicate that, right? That blue giants go well with instant sorceries. I don't know. I don't know what to think about this card. I think this is one of the cards where I just can't give my opinion about, really, because we haven't seen really any blue giants so far, except for like one from this thing, from this set packs or what, set boosters, which costs 7 mana and also has synergy with instant sorceries. So this indicates like a giant wizard spellslingering tribal theme. If there is one and it has enough synergy, this seems okay, because it effectively lets you, you know, look at top 3 cards of the library, get one, and then do it again for a total of 3 mana. And you play this from your graveyard, which is also effectively drawing another card. So this might be good. I don't know. I don't want to give too much of an opinion on that card, but that being said, we are through. So you once more. Okay, exciting stuff, man. I'm really curious about Oliphtrol. I like Nico Aris. I absolutely love the Tibalt and Valky design. Yeah, just great stuff here. And the art also seems amazing. So, guys, I'm super excited. I hope you guys enjoyed my live reaction, and stay tuned. I'll keep you guys updated.